Pyramids, ziggurats are structures, pointing to the sky designed for the dwelling of gods. Ancients believed gods visited priestesses in these temples for secret rituals. When Cain and his descendants began rebuilding civilization, they created monuments that embodied the concept of the world mountain, both the antediluvian and post-diluvian concepts of it. These monuments are the pyramids and ziggurats, stepped pyramids, of megalithic times, huge cyclopean structures, found on every continent. And in every case the indigenous cultures were primitives who claimed that the gods came and built these structures in a long-lost era. As we know, the likely architects of the more early structures were probably Cain and Enoch. They were probably built on the blueprint of a similar temple said to have towered over the heart of Atlantis. This conceptual union in these structures, pyramids, ziggurats, is a symbol also central to the practice of sex magic, or sexual alchemy, an ancient art as old as religion itself, in which the participants ritually embody the archetypes of a god and a goddess, then unite sexually to symbolize the union of male and female energies. These rituals, not surprisingly, took place in the inner sanctum of the pyramid and ziggurat temples. It is quite likely that these rituals were partly ceremonies commemorating the hierogamy, divine intercourse, that spawned the royal race of Cain, and it is quite possible that Cain was the first high priest to officiate these rituals. It is also likely that the figure on whom Venus is based was the first high priestess or temple prostitute, for Venus has been called in ancient literature the mother of harlots, which is another symbolic connection between her and the figure of Mary Magdalene. In Europe, there are myths that the goddess Venus lives inside of a magic mountain, the well-known Venusberg tale upon which Wagner's Tannhauser is based, and which is connected to the tales of Melusine. Here she lived with her attendant gnomes and fairies, who occupied the numerous caverns and underground rivers that honeycombed the inside of the mountain. In the Venusberg tale, the preferred habit of the mountain's mistress is to seduce some hapless young man into her abode and hold him there under a spell of sexual magnetism, sometimes for years at a time, the immortal goddess wasting the poor man's life away in orgiastic debauchery. In these legends, she is said to still be buried there today, lying in her tomb, not surprisingly, in a deathless sleep, from which she can only be raised by the embrace of a new young man. Thus arose the primordial tale of Sleeping Beauty. The Tower of Babel consisted of 7 steps, and each step was painted with one of the 7 colors of the rainbow, forming a rainbow bridge to heaven, which was indeed what the temple represented. In fact, the Sumerian word for ziggurat is duranki, which means the binding of heaven and earth, and the word Babylon, where the tower was located, means gateway of the gods. Julius Evola claims that in the Pir ritual which was once performed in a temple's inner sanctum, the priestess was referred to as Ianu Acheli, gateway to heaven. This proves once again that the ritual which took place inside the temple represented the same concept as the temple itself. Traces of this function performed by the priest and priestess in ancient times can be found in the Latin word for priest, pontifex, which literally means builder of bridges, to heaven, of course. The tower acted as a gateway to the gods, not only because its peak reached high into the sky, but because, like the original holy mountain, or mountains, which it commemorated, gods were believed to live inside of the tower, or at least, to be able to access it from wherever they did live. If the gods did indeed live underground and inside of mountains after the flood, then they may have been able to visit the tower, perhaps through a network of tunnels underneath the structure. Many if not most ancient temples and ziggurats did have tunnel systems built underneath them, sometimes incredibly large and complex. There are tunnels spanning many miles, for instance, underneath the structures in Cusco, Peru, connecting them all. Imagine what it would be like to participate in a ritual inside such a structure, in which a god is summoned, and a literal, physical being climbs up from the depths of the earth into your ritual chamber. That is exactly what was said to have occurred in the sex magic rituals inside these ancient temples, when human priestesses or temple prostitutes, often very young, were sent into the temple to be impregnated by one of these gods. This took place at the Tower of Babel for sure. One ancient chronicler, quoted by Horizon magazine's Book of Lost Worlds, wrote of the temple at Babylon that on the summit of the topmost tower stands a great temple with a fine large couch on it, richly covered, and a golden table beside it. The shrine contains no image, and no one spends the night there except, if we may believe the Chaldeans, who are the priests of Bel, one Assyrian woman, all alone, whoever it may be that the god has chosen. The Chaldeans also say, though I do not believe them, that the god enters the temple in person and takes his rest upon the bed. This ceremony is still kept in Japan on the enthronement night of the king. Japan's Emperor Naruhito dressed in pure white robes and was ushered into a dark wooden hall for his last major enthronement rite, spending the night with the goddess at 2019.